Some days there's no one else who loves me like you used to. Some days I'm not myself, there's no one I can turn to. All the feelings that we shared are in the past. Your relationships are never meant to last. All the feelings that we shared are in the past. Your relationships are never meant to last. It might take some time, but I'll be alright. I'm moving on, I'm moving on. I know times are tough, but I've had enough. I'm moving on, I'm moving on. Moving on, I'm moving on.
What's up, guys? How's everybody doing? Move this over. Can you guys hear me clearly? Let me know when you can hear me clearly. I have the straw today so I don't slurp in the background when I'm charting. Drinking out of a straw like a little kid. Figured I'd do you guys a favor. Just give me some feedback when you can hear me. And then we'll get it started. Sound is good. Cool. Alright, guys. What's going on? What do we have in the chat? JR, Rodero, Koa, what's up, buddy? Philip, Jur, Jinbang Yang. It's a fun name to say, Jinbang. I like your name. Chris Baker. Okay, Michael Horton, what's going on, pal? Sir Fluffy Furball. Hi, sound works great. What's up, Banks? What's going on, buddy? Rodero, A-OK. All right, so sound is good. Cool. So we'll get it started in a minute. It's 1:33. I usually start the streams 5 minutes after I say that they're going to start, just to give people a chance to come in, get adjusted, sit down, pour themselves a nice tall one. I don't know what a tall one is of what, but tall glass of water, tall glass of coffee, tall glass of wine, tall martini of vodka. Yusuf, what's up? Butter Yak. Chris K. Sajan, what's going on? Cornholio. Cornholio, did you get the #1 spot again with the comment? Nah, I think you did, though. But for some reason, I can't see it. Pretty sure you did. Where is Cap? Baseball cap? No cap today. No cap today. You typically see me in a hat if I've either came from the gym or I come from the gym. Hey, Swift Academy. I'm glad to have you back, bro. Hey, Swift Academy. I should tell you right now, since you're just saying this, you're a dick. And I think I'm going to go ahead and put you in timeout. Okay. Swift Academy. The reason why I talk a lot is because I'm not just a robot and there is a human side to me. I like to talk a little bit in the beginning. Give everyone a second. Okay. But see you later. I timed you out for 300 seconds. And when it's the 301st second, I'm probably just going to time you out again. All right, so we're going to go over the charts. As always, thank you guys for tuning in. On behalf of myself and my partner, Josh Rager, I want to thank you guys for watching and subscribing to the BlockRoots YouTube channel. If you're not familiar with BlockRoots, we run an educational platform where we get pretty heavy into market profile and order flow, and we have a pretty robust community there. So good afternoon, everyone who's just joining in. We're going to go over Bitcoin, obviously. I do want to talk, so unfortunately, Swift Academy will have to sit through that if I allow him to. I want to talk about the more recent news this morning about Gemini and inflows and the little bit of back and forth we saw between Crypto Quant and Glassnode on-chain data. So yeah, we'll talk about that and talk about the upcoming competition that Phemex is having, because as you know, this stream we are partnered with Phemex, so we're going to be talking about a lot of the things that Phemex has going on when they do new listings and when they have new exchange features. And we already went over what they're offering with yield in terms of generating yield on your USDT. So it's 7 to 10%, which is, look at traditional markets right now. You can't find any yield. So they also have a trading competition coming up. As I have to say in the beginning of the stream, remember, this is not financial advice. This is all the things we go over are going to be how I approach the markets, how I am trading currently. I'm pretty upfront with my positions, what I am in and what I'm getting in and out of, what I have been in, what I plan on getting in. So we're partners with Phemex. They are sponsoring the stream, and they do have a competition coming up. So before we get into everything, we might as well highlight that. So they have a competition coming up in 8 days. If you want to join our team, I think we finished top 10 last time. The team is called The Desk. Okay. And you'll see that We have a nice self-portrait of Van Gogh, and your captain here, the Hound of Hounslow. And if you don't know who the Hound of Hounslow is, I suggest you read. Oh, I didn't change the screen, so we'll go over that in a second. All right, so let's go to the screen real quick. Okay, live. There we go. All right, so I forgot to change the screen. Okay, so this is the competition that that they're having. This starts in 8 days. You could go ahead and join our team if you want. Like I said last time, I think we finished top 10. This is going to be a fun competition because there are it's all manual trading. So they've limited the availability to only manual traders. So you'll be trading against just clickers, right? Just clickers, just discretionary traders. So if you want to join our team, search the desk. Like I said, the Hound of Hounslow is your captain. And if you are not familiar with the Hound of Hounslow, I suggest you get this book about Navinder Sarao. Okay, this is an awesome book. Okay, this is one of my favorite books. True story. All right. So if you want to join our team, feel free. Okay, go to Phemex.trade. If you use that link, then you do get reduced trading fees or whatever kind of promotion they're currently offering. I'm not really sure what promotion they're offering right now. Sometimes $100, sometimes the reduced trading fees. I promise you, if you sign up and you don't see that you got some sort of incentive to sign up, I'll go ahead and make sure that you do. Okay, so let's just go back to the chat real quick to see if anyone has any questions before we start. So you brought more shroom back in August. So we're going to keep it casual this stream, so I want you guys to ask questions. Try to answer as many as possible. So it's funny, I bought more shroom back in August after you tweeted, I hope people aren't buying shroom, thinking it's SR. So yeah, let's look at the charts in silence, right? Yeah. Okay, cool. So let's get back to it. All right. Get out of this. If we could get those likes up, that'd be fantastic. We got a poor like and current viewer parity right now, so I'd like to improve that. So the first thing I want to talk about is, let's see, crypto quant. All right, so we're going to be talking about what was all over this morning. And this is with regards to the 18,000 BTC that was either deposited to Gemini or not. I don't know what the final verdict is, whether or not this was actually sent to Gemini or whether it's shuffling between wallets. Just to get into on-chain data really quick, there's obviously a lot more to trading crypto than when it comes to trading technicals than just looking at the chart. We have great platforms like Crypto Quant, and that is something that, as I've said, I'm subscribed to. This is a great platform. Okay, this gives you exchange flows, a bunch of on-chain data that's really, it is very useful. How wallets are behaving, how money is leaving exchanges, entering exchanges, and we've sort of leaned on this for a while throughout this entire move up. And when I say leaned on it, I mean like a lot of people have been referencing the crap, why is this not coming up at all? For some reason I can't sign in this morning. I forgot my password, and I don't feel like doxing the email that's attached to this, but most of the entire bull market we've been referencing exchange flows, at the lows over here, at the lows over here. We've seen it constantly advertised that Bitcoin has been leaving Coinbase, right? Supply is being taken off exchanges and deposited into wallets. Okay, so the idea is clearly, one of the stronger arguments for Bitcoin going up is supply being taken off the market, and there being less supply available, and there being more people that are demanding Bitcoin. Okay, so this is a very useful thing, but I mean, as you can imagine, like once all eyes are on something, whether it's a signal or, an indicator, once something becomes really populated and saturated in terms of everyone using it, as you can imagine, that could be used to manipulate the market. So I don't know why we would just continue to say that this is always going to be a bullish signal if we see that Bitcoin leaves Coinbase, for example, or if it's going to be an immediate bear signal if we see that it starts flowing onto the exchange. I would say that overall in a bull market, you're going to see that, yeah, Bitcoin's going to be leaving exchanges on average, that over time that average is going to be consistent. And that, during a time of, like, let's say a market crisis and the market is beginning to turn and maybe we're entering a bear market, then yeah, of course you're going to see Bitcoin starting to be deposited back onto exchanges and withdrawn in USD. I do think that now these one-off events can be used to manipulate the market. So, for example, like if Goldman Sachs, or let's just talk about maybe an asset manager, like a fast money fund, right, a two-way player, if you see that they say that something is, do you think, well, let me rephrase this question. Do you think that hedge fund XYZ is going to be saying that a position, that they're going to be selling a position? Do you think that they're going to be saying that before they actually do? Right? Why would they do that? They'd be advertising that they have plans on getting out of a position, and it would offer people a chance to front run them, and they would get a poor exit price. So my thing is, the whole argument was whether or not this was, someone said in the chat, this is Gemini made a statement that it was internal. I don't know, whether it was internal or whether it was whether someone was depositing it. 18,000 Bitcoin. Just do the math here. 18,000 Bitcoin over a yard of Bitcoin, right? So over $1 billion worth of Bitcoin being deposited onto Gemini, which is not exactly the thickest market, right? All at once. Okay, this would not be the kind of behavior that we would expect from a sophisticated whale, right? Telling the market that they have plans to offload. And when a whale offloads, they want to be able to do it at the best available price, right? So normally in traditional markets, like if you're a portfolio manager or if you're a fund, you're going to be trying to get in and out around VWAP, right? You're going to be trying to get in your position and out of your position at the best available prices, right? Where the most liquidity is. So this is kind of counterintuitive for how a whale would operate. Send it on the worst exchange, right? Not the worst exchange, but in terms of priorities, you'd be prioritizing liquidity, all right? And try to obfuscate it as much as possible and hide it, right? You wouldn't want to sort of advertise this position. The one reason why we could think maybe they would want to advertise it is, hey, like we just had a significant change in market structure, all right? So we just broke a high. This by all means could lead to continuation. This could be the retest. And maybe this large person, maybe they're trying to, and this is not, again, don't run with this, but hey, how might this be used? Maybe this large entity would be doing something like this to create a panic in the market, to possibly fill their positions on another exchange, right? To maybe fill their limits somewhere else, to create liquidity for them. While we're paying attention to the one hand, the other hand is doing something else. So it's sort of like, magic, right? The art of misdirection. Okay. So that's something that I think is worth going over, right? A large participant, they're not going to advertise this. I don't think that, I think that clearly it had an effect on the market, right? It had an effect that we saw, from the highs, we saw, what was it, over a 10% drop. But, of course it's going to have an effect, but what was that effect? Excuse me, let me just rephrase that. Was that effect, was the purpose of that, whether it was someone sending to Gemini, would have that been meant to create liquidity in the first place? Like, would it have been used to create a panic, again, to fill someone's position? So as someone already said in the chat, Gemini made a statement that it was internal, but these are just things to think of. Like the first order, so there's two types of thinking. There's a common, this was brought up by one of my favorite hedge fund managers, and God, I can't even think of his name now. I just said he's one of my favorite. Oh shoot, what did he recently? Oak Tree. So Oak Tree Capital Management, Howard, was it Howard Marks? Why is this, why am I saying that he's one of my favorite and I can't think of his name right now? Yes, okay. So what he talks about is first order, second order thinking. This is not a concept that he invented. First order thinking is like, all right, big entity is putting money onto the exchange. They're going to sell, price is going to go down, right? That's sort of like first connection you're going to make, probably not the best one, okay? Versus thinking, taking into account maybe a little bit of game theory, a little bit of psychology, right? Which those two are connected, obviously, and seeing maybe how this could be used in a different manner. So just to get that out of the way, wanted to cover that. Does anyone have any questions about that? So I'll give you guys a second. If you guys have any questions in the chat. Been watching Blockroot's videos whole day. My first break today is this live stream. Yeah, don't visit PancakeSwap and enter seed phrase anywhere. No. Diversion, exactly, Bobby. Yeah. Yeah, so the memes on wheels, as a low IQ bell curve meme point of view, big inflow to Gemini signal equals price go down. Doesn't matter why, just that it does. Right, so my point is it likely did generate downward pressure, right? We did see the market sell off. But the question is, was it the entity that it was selling, or was that intended, right? Because the entity essentially wanted to influence the market, create that sell pressure. Like we still ultimately got, market took a 10% haircut, right? So there's no questioning that. But the purpose is, or the better question is, what were the intentions behind that, right? Do you think we're in a similar correction that occurred after the previous 58,000 all-time high? So we're looking at over here. I think it's way too early to tell. I'm going to go over some important levels. So how does everyone feel in the chat? I'm sorry, man. Swift Academy, it's all good, but it's all good. I know I talk too much, Swift Academy, but you just got to understand, and Banks knows this too. It's a New York thing, man. It's a New York thing. Hey, Swift Academy, it works both ways. Like, you're in the chat. If you want to ask as many questions as you want, feel free to blow up the chat. I feel bad. I blocked you for 300 seconds. I'm not gonna do that again. And any questions you ask, I'll go ahead and answer. All right. So how does everyone feel about this right now? Is everyone thinking that this is bearish? How are we feeling rather about the chart? Bearish, bullish, good pullback back to the all-time high break, or do we think that maybe this is a deviation? I don't think that the drop was caused by the India ban FUD. India is really low on the totem pole in terms of volume. I don't know if the volume I shared yesterday was old, but if it was, and it was 56 million in trading volume, I think that might be wrong. I'm not 100% sure. But if that's the case, then I have more trading volume than India does. So, Michael, it's always a good point, right? The association right now is that this drop is because of the, on-chain data. A lot of this, was helped by what we saw going into the weekend, right? If we look at, and I shared this on Twitter, and I shared this in Blockroots the other day. If we just look at the previous high, right, before we were even at the high, so when we were back here, we'll just show on the open interest. So here's open interest. All right, here is this level. So before we even broke the high, we were well above the previous high in terms of open interest. So what I think is this is definitely helped by, again, what we've seen constantly, which is a bunch of leverage, right? And we see that on the weekends, right? We see retail kind of takes over. We saw a ton of leverage. We saw a ton of liquidations. So if we just look at the liquidations, coin margin contracts, and this is a 4-hour period setting, right? But just in that 1 4-hour period in Bitcoin, 369 million, right? I think the total liquidations in the market were over $1 billion. But just keep in mind, it's the thing about coin margin contracts and people trading perpetual swaps is there's the drawback of that is the convexity, right? The negative convexity associated with a long position going against you. So linear contracts move like, let me just change this. Linear contracts, your profit and loss moves like this. For longs in a perpetual swap, it moves like this, right? So let's say current price is right here, XY axis. All right, so here's a linear futures contract. Perpetual swaps, it occurs like this, right? So ultimately, and that's a kind of a way too smooth curve at the high. Ultimately, with perpetual swaps, as price increases, your gains decrease, right? Because you're margined in the underlying, right? You're trading something that's margined in BTC. And as price goes against you, like let's say that this is like 10,000 BTC, 10K, and this is, 100K. Some crazy spectrum right there. If price moves against you, okay, you're going to experience loss at an accelerating rate because your swap is margined in BTC. So holding a perp becomes a lot more painful. Just put it that way. It becomes, where did my crypto coin analyze go? Did I get rid of that? Holding a perpetual swap becomes a lot more painful. So that's one thing to consider. On the weekends, we see retail, and Susu has said retail has been wrong, but just look at the previous high and look to where we got. Why did this change colors? Look to where we got in terms of open interest. Like massive increase in open interest. So this does set up a trap position. Right? Me and Aaron, Mr. Well, it's okay if his crypto name is the right name. Me and Banks, we were out to dinner the other night. I was sharing with him, and we both had similar positions. We were both hedged up at the high, sitting at dinner with our wives. And then I ended up removing the hedge. So, big no-no. So yeah. So big increase in open interest above a high. And what that usually is people are chasing this, expecting this to lead to continuation. So no one ever told me whether they were bearish or bullish. And then I'm going to get on to reasons why I'm not necessarily bearish. Okay, let's go back to the chat. Let's see. All right. Drop was caused by more selling and less buying. Yeah, that's usually how it works, right? Okay, let me go through this. No back job. It's not a promotional stream, but we are partners with Phemex and want to make that as transparent as possible. They are right now in terms of matching engine speed, they are the fastest crypto exchange. And they offer a lot of the DeFi pairs now. You could trade those in contracts. You could get right into spot as well. So we have been partners with them for the last year. So how is your 1K to 100K challenge going? That's actually Josh. So I'm sure it's going pretty well. Okay, forget about it. Yeah, everyone waiting for 52K level might be front run. Yeah, that's possible. We'll look at the levels in a second. I have a chunk to invest. Plan with BTC at spot. Seems like a real nervy time to enter. So Hamden, I'm not going to give you specific advice, but I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to tell you that retail buys higher because of how they're looking at things like this right now. And it could be, this could be a time where we do get a deeper correction, but the entire way up, when we have a correction, someone is saying that they planned on buying, but they're not sure right now. And then they end up buying when they have confirmation, meaning price is back above the last high that it made. And then they end up making price go up more because they're chasing it, and that's what creates momentum. So for me personally, I don't dollar cost average into Bitcoin. Really, I just kind of enter in, bite the bullet, and that has been pretty rewarding so far. But I can't give you any specific advice. I think that Bitcoin, I think you got to look at it a lot of different ways. So for example, one thing that I'm considering right now in terms of this sort of intermediate trend within a much larger trend is, let's think about it. Bitcoin's at 60K. So if Bitcoin goes 100K, that is, that's just under a 2x. Like, is it worth it for me to really stay 100% exposed to BTC, or should I take some off as we approach this level? Because, you know, at most, what am I going to get more out of this? A 2x. There are other attractive investments that might be, you know, setting up that might offer a better return profile. So, you know, I could see the argument as to why someone would be hesitant to buy at these levels, for sure, right? But at the same time, you know, there's the concept of price, and then there's the concept of expensive and cheap. And some people might make an argument for 50K being still, or 50, 60K being still relatively cheap in terms of what Bitcoin can go to and what sort of the argument is right now for getting involved in crypto. Back to consolidating under the same resistance. I don't know, may drop this time. Okay. Back inside old range. First time in this cycle. Bearish. All right. Okay. So no slurps, but now I'm drinking out of a straw, and it's going to make that air noise once in a while because I'm at the bottom. All right. So I will go to the screen. So back within a previous range. So this is a kind of a concept that I apply when I'm trading ranges, right? If we have a well-defined range, something like this. This was not really a range that was respected for long, though, right? Kind of had two ranges if we look at this. So you have really, I mean, if you look at it, you could make the argument that something like this, where the prior range is, this was one big deviation, again, a big leverage deviation, big sort of cascading liquidations, unwinding of that leverage in the market, and then the market sort of fell back and was reaccepted back within a prior level of acceptance. But this definitely could set up as a larger range. If it's reaccepted, if the argument is that it's reaccepted back within a previous range and this is our range, I think you still have to think, all right, so first target would be within here. I wouldn't just anticipate that an acceptance between this point and this point means that we're going to treat this as a much larger range. Price is up here getting, it's getting overextended because of the retail participation we're seeing on exchanges like Bybit, for example. And I think you're going to have constantly within this cycle now, I think we're going to have to deal with overextensions and what's it called? Deviations. I don't want to take them and run too far with them, though. Like, I don't want to say that this kind of deviation means that this is a deviation within a much larger range and we have to come back down to the lows. It's doing a fair job up here, honestly. But I'll get to what I think in a second. I just want to go through some of the comments and make sure I answer your questions. I don't know if it's bearish. And I don't know, so to Chris, old Ides of March effect. I don't know if you want to give too much weight to seasonality in crypto. Like, I love to point things out on Twitter. I'm guilty of it, of generating content and saying things like, March has historically been a pretty crappy month for BTC. That doesn't affect my positioning ever. I still trade it the same because at the end of the day, am the first person to say, like, what do we have, 12 years now? We have just, 3 peaks, right? We have how many Marches? In terms of statistical significance, I don't think that we could say much with seasonality yet. Context is completely different this time around from last March too. So, from last March, and I know that you're not just referring to that because obviously there's other March of previous years have been poor as well. But again, doesn't necessarily need to extend moving forward. And I've always said this, the one thing that I do expect with Bitcoin, because it is so young, is for eventually these patterns to break, right? So at some point, I think it's sort of like if you're flipping a coin, right? And you know that you have a coin that's 50-50, this is perfect, right? There's nothing skewing it being 50-50. Some people might make arguments of coin flips being, you know, depending on how many flips in, you having less than a 50-50 chance, or a different chance and a 50-50 chance of the next one showing up heads or tails. But let's say we're flipping a coin, and we are, you know, the past 7 flips in a row have been heads, right? How many can you go on in a streak with a 50-50 coin flip? Someone do the math or find out. Maybe you can expect a streak of, I don't know, in a large sample of 1 million flips, you might have streaks that are ridiculously long. But if, let's say that, for example, you're 10 flips in and all 10 of them have shown up as heads, like, are you going to bet that the next, on balance probabilities, do you think that the next 4 flips moving forward are going to show something different, right? And maybe that's oversimplified and not a good example, but I think that the sample that we have with crypto so far, you could just expect it moving forward to break more than to reflect what has historically occurred. Any thoughts on weekly bearish divergence? Okay. Hater chart. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Phemex considering allowing trading with 3 commas. Wait, I think I lost some. So any thoughts on weekly bearish divergence if we close this weekly red? So I'll look at that. Yeah, so funding, mesmerize, memes on wheels. Funding did get really, really hot. Yeah. So combination of CME gap, retail ape, high leverage longs, 3-day bearish divergence, Gemini FUD. So CME gap is always a meme to me. I think it's only actionable if you're close, because if you're close to the CME gap, you know, if we looked at the CME gap before it was filled, right here, if you're close enough to it, just from a game theory perspective, just think about it. So here was the gap originally. If you're close enough to it, this could become self-fulfilling, right? I've said this before, you know, CME gaps that have occurred on the way down in Bitcoin's price history, meaning any gaps that have ever occurred with Bitcoin when Bitcoin was moving down, right? So let's say gaps within here, gaps within here. I don't know if there were any back there, but any gaps that have occurred as prices move down, just by survivorship of the secular trend being up over time and making new highs, have been filled, right? I don't think that gaps are actionable. You know, you could have a gap that gets filled. Yeah, all gaps tend to get filled, but that's because Bitcoin has a really high ATR, I would say. Kind of covers all bases. And also, there's no, you know, all gaps get filled. All right, so do they get filled in a day after? Do they get filled in a week after? Do they get filled in 6 months after? Right, so it's not actionable to say that, you know, the gap is a good play, a good thing to trade off of, I would say, unless we're really close. So when we're really close to a gap, I think that it could influence market participants, right? So let's say, all right, so we're looking at this structure over here and we know we have this gap. All right, so I'm sitting on the sidelines. So I have a few things to think of. Okay, so we have a gap. When we're really, you know, I could say, you know, we probably fill the gap, so maybe I should hold off on longing. So I'm not going to long up here, all right? Or, you know, I'm going to sell my position or get into a short position because I think this gap's going to fill. So just a combination of that kind of thinking can increase sell pressure, decrease buy pressure, and yeah, help maybe price end up covering that gap after all. So maybe in terms of proximity, when we're close, it matters. But I wouldn't think too much into the CME gaps in general. All right. All right, so I'm going to go over the chart in a second. Just want to make sure I hit everyone's questions. Single prints in the 52 get cleaned up. Yeah, we'll look at those. I don't know if the single prints will end up getting filled, because they weren't single prints that occurred. Oh, wait 1 second. I'm back in the chat. The single prints that occurred were within another profile. So I'm going to go over the ExoCharts platform in a second. So it's not like the single prints occurred exploring into new territory. Phemex considering allowing trading with 3 commas? I think so. But no, not for the competition. All right. So Blockroot's course content, we have a couple hundred hours of stuff on market profile and order flow. 2 people, 200 people. Okay. All right, so I'm going to go over the charts now. So I wanted to cover all the questions. One sec. Buy the dips with USD. All right, so I'm going to take a look at BTC right now. Okay, so first things first. Get this off. So funding rates were very elevated, right? So up into this high. So if we just zoom out for a second. Up here, just like up here, we saw funding get very hot. So we saw upwards of, what was it, 29 basis points, around 30 basis points. It makes it very expensive to hold a position. So this is going to decay any longs that are currently in. And if you have a break of an all-time high like this, just think, so break of the all-time high like this, before that occurred, you had a very large increase in open interest. You get the break of the all-time high, you get a much larger increase in open interest, and you have a very high funding. So all of the people that got involved up here, they're experiencing decay at a very fast rate, right? Their position is immediately starting to lose value because the funding is so high. When people are using high leverage, that could liquidate their position. So a 100x leverage position, that would be, let's see, that would be liquidated in 3 funding intervals, right? If you were using 1% margin to open up a position, at 100x, you'd be liquidated in less than 24 hours, all right? So when funding gets very hot, I don't like when the market stands still, okay? Ultimately, you want to see funding get hot at the high after a long move has already occurred, okay? So, for example, back here, we have a break of structure, funding gets really hot up here. You know, funding is elevated the entire time, that's fine. But at the first move above the high, no continuation quickly thereafter, it just makes these positions very costly, right? This occurs on the weekend. This is kind of just all retail activity. So we just have to think about it like that, right? The cost to borrow, the interest rate component on these, it just becomes very expensive to keep these positions open. That also incentivizes shorts to open. So if you see that, for example, you know, just think about this trade that exists. If you are long spot Bitcoin, what you can do is you could get into an equal short Bitcoin position up at these highs and essentially earn that funding, right? So earn 30 basis points every, 8-hour period, all right? So you incentivize sell pressure to come into the market right here. Okay, so right now what we're seeing is current funding levels. Get rid of this. So current funding levels have become very neutral. Okay, negative on Huobi, negative on OKX, and I focus more on, again, token margined, so coin margined, right? These are the ones that are going to be experiencing a lot of pain, okay, if the market moves against us. Right? If you're long, the market moves against you and you're holding a coin margin contract, you experience pain at an accelerating rate. Okay, that's the best way I could put it, right? Your pain point is, it is much different than someone who's holding linear or USDT margin futures contracts. Okay, so OKX negative, Huobi negative. I think more importantly, Bybit neutral, right? So we see that Bybit is the main culprit in terms of who is getting really apish, right? We see that this is probably the low, I don't want to say that, that's mean. A bunch of just retail aggressive traders on this exchange that are chomping at the bit every chance they can get to get long with leverage, okay? And you could thank your liquidations due to this exchange, all right? So the fact that Bybit is neutral, I think it is really good to see, or rather, excuse me, the fact that Bybit is neutral is really telling, and it's really good to see that occur during a dip like we currently have. So we're already having this into this dip, which is just a 10% dip. I don't want to say just a 10% dip, 1 standard deviation. But a 10% dip is a buying opportunity to anyone who's an institutional investor right now looking to get in. Okay, they might have certain, they might define certain parameters such as if we have a 5% or greater dip, we're just going to allocate this much, right? Just sort of a systematic buy that they are, a systematic approach that they have to buying. So Bybit right now neutral, and we see that predicted, which is on view base right here, also across the board neutral. So it's not like we're seeing, and the best way I could put it, it's not like we're seeing that in this dip, people are getting really aggressive in leverage positions. What I have on the chart right here, just to clarify, this is the BTC Bybit delta. So delta difference, right? So I could see, for example, or you could see right now, that at these highs, all right, Bybit was trading. much higher than Coinbase. Okay, into this dip, we've seen that Coinbase has had, for the majority of this dip, a sustained premium over derivatives contracts. Okay, so this is the best kind of thing. This is the best thing that you can see into a dip like we currently have. Right? And for a while, if you don't know what I'm talking about, all I'm talking about is if we look at Coinbase, current Coinbase price is at 56.22. Bybit is at 56.51, but up until the last few minutes, it's been the case that Coinbase has been trading above Bybit. So if we think that Bybit is sort of the main culprit for all of the dummies in the market, the ones that get really aggressive with leverage, what we were seeing throughout this move was it looked like Bybit was getting trapped into the lows on the continuation play to the downside, right? So market breaks down at the high. Let's just take, some first order thinking and apply it to this right now. All right, so this was the all-time high break. Oh, market fails. I'm going to get short now because this is a deviation and target these lows. I don't think there's enough evidence right now to say that that's a good play. But what I'm saying is on Bybit, it looks to be that Bybit apes are getting in position, assuming that, okay? So this is the thing that you would want to see rather than seeing into a dip like this, that you have funding going positive, right? That you have the basis showing that perps are trading much more at a premium than spot. The thing that we have right now is, I would say, we're relatively neutral. You might not get in a bull market, excuse me, I'm just filling my cup again so you don't hear all the ice. You might not get negative funding in this bull market for a really long time. If anything, when we start to get really negative funding, maybe that's an indication that things have changed, okay? So things look good in terms of funding. Other things to pay attention to, we did liquidate a ton of positions, all right? When you liquidate a lot of positions and you stop out a bunch of longs, just think about it this way. There's less pressure now to move back up. People might not understand this, but it should be pretty obvious. When everyone is long, there's no one left to buy, right? When everyone is long, when there are a lot of people that are long, there are a lot of sellers in the market. So when you flush out a good portion of those buyers, those are future buyers that are now in the market again, and those are less sellers, right? Or rather, that represents less sellers now. So when you have a structure, let's just draw one out simply. When you have a structure that has been, indicating that there's a poor positioning up here, funding very positive, you have stops below here, you flush all of them out. After you flush all of them out and you cause all of these liquidations to be completed, right? They're off of the book. All of this area, this little gap that gets created right between here, that kind of becomes more of a vacuum because all of those longs are now flushed out. So anyone who still has dry powder and didn't get completely obliterated, they're now going to be a potential buyer. And this has less friction from any future seller, right? Now that those liquidations are off the book. So the gap works in both directions. The gap to the downside, and I was pointing this out in BlockRoots, was this gap right here. You didn't want to gain acceptance back within this gap. When you gain acceptance back within a gap, you tend to cover it pretty quickly. So covering this wasn't much of a problem. So funding right now looks good. In terms of market structure, so a lot of people are going to be saying this is a deviation because you had this high put in. This high should lead to immediate continuation. It doesn't necessarily need to be the case, right? When we see that, you have a lot of offside positioning come into the market at the high, when you have a large increase in open interest, and this occurs on the weekend. When you see this kind of liquidation can bring us, and this kind of selling event can bring us back within market structure. It doesn't, in trading, there's too many times people operate under the assumption that like this has to hold, right? The level has to be exact, okay? If it's not exact, then it is the exact opposite setup, right? If it's not exact and we're holding the high, then it has to mean we're going to come back down to the low. On the lower time frames, sometimes that does have sort of a self-fulfilling, that does take on a sort of self-fulfilling nature, right? Sellers sort of acting on that type of signal. But I think that what we're really doing right now is, we're finding support back within a prior range. So if I just look at, for example, the session volume, not the session, turn that off. The fixed range, and I'm going to go to the TPO in a second. Fixed range of this area. This is the value area low. This is the value area high. Didn't find support, all but temporarily at the high. And now we're finding support at the low. So really what we've done is we've gained temporary reacceptance back within a prior range. Okay, if we look at, we'll go to the XO right now. And this is XO's new desktop platform. It's not done whatsoever. What we're doing is, it keeps turning my drawing tool off every time I'm in it too. This previous range is back here. We're developing most of our value now back within this previous range. So the best case scenario that I would say we could do right now is to move sideways within 57 and 55, maybe have one more poke of these lows, which would set us up for a sort of 3-drive structure, and then start trading back above where most of the volume came in. Okay, so we're developing value back within a previous structure. XO, again, doesn't have enough history right now to show that. Developing value within a previous structure. All right, we had offside positioning. You can see on BitMEX, for example, the low, the higher low, but the lower low in CVD. So you had that aggressive selling at the low. The best case would be, if within this previous structure and value, which is developing right here, I would say if we could do something like this, stab the lows, and then start trading back above the point of control, what this looks like to me then is the B for base, right? And this becomes, you know, this becomes a pullback, right? This becomes your retest. It obviously is a pullback, you fucking moron. This becomes a bullish retest, right? So we have the bullish retest, ends up holding, comes back a little bit further, right? The market's not going to act perfectly like a treasury, even though they're not acting perfectly lately, but levels don't have to hold to the, you know, to the T. And then we have this base that's built here, and it looks bullish because ultimately at that point we have the Coinbase premium that has been more often than not the case, and things are relatively neutral. So this is a pullback. That's all I think it is. I think it's a pullback, all right? It's violated the previous structure, but I think the more important levels that we should focus on in terms of things we don't want to violate, they're not going to be the highs. Like I always say, you know, you're going to at some point violate highs, right? This high is violated until we break market structure drastically. There's no reason to call it, right? And when I say call it, I mean, you know, dead on arrival or say what time it's dead, right? This is this market structure still has integrity, all right? And if you look at just zoom out, sort of some higher time frame trending tools, you know, we gained acceptance back above the 20 period. This could very well be an area that we come back down to, but the trend is still very much intact. A little messy, but very much intact. I would say, and it's unfortunate that I want to go over XO's platform, but it's not letting me have more than 3 days right now. I just got to tell you, the platform is phenomenal. In terms of how fluid it is, just something that the web version wasn't. I know that they are creating something amazing here. I'm using I'm using Quant Tower right now, but if this has everything Quant Tower has, then I'm probably going to go with these guys, right? I just because I want to support the guys that I know on Twitter, and I think that they're probably going to make something incredible either way. But if we just look at again what I'm pointing out, just because I can't pull it up exactly there, it's just this, right? So value area high, value area low, previous consolidation before this poke up. Yeah, we got a little bit heavy up here, but what we're doing right now is just establishing value within a previous level, right? Within a previously accepted area. I think I would be more bullish if we did something like this. Like I said, we have 1, 2, let's say we take this low out, and then we start claiming a little bit higher, trading a little bit higher. I think that would be a better situation. I wouldn't want to see these lows get untested. I don't think that would be the case, honestly. I think they were probably going to take out these lows. I'll go to XO on the full platform just so I could pull up the other TPOs. Yeah, oh wait. Oh, gotta select your look back first, then the period, i.e. 30 days, then 30 minutes. Yeah, I know I did that, look. 3 days, 30 minutes. So I don't know what's going on with that. Maybe I'm doing it wrong, but just to show what I was talking about before. Just back within this level. So I think if you stab the low down here, you can see the trap sellers at that low just in that profile alone. There's no excess in that profile, in the volume profile. It's a little bit of increase down there in delta. So if we start trading, if we take out the lows, so stab below, say 54.5, and then if we're back above, at that point if we're back above something like the point of control of this structure, so that is around, where is this? Come on. That's around 56.175. I think at that point it's clear, right? I think that's your low, especially in what we're seeing between spot and futures. And you can just thank Bybit again for getting overextended. Delta showing some absorption at the lows already. I think that should be obvious though with the premium. There's a ton of selling below 56 already. Just something that I went over yesterday on BlockRoots. One thing that I do, and I'll take your questions again. I'll go to the questions and take a look at them. One thing that I like to do is when you have a significant break like this, so when we have an important level that's broken through, I like to attach an anchored VWAP, right? Specific level that we've broken, an area where a ton of volume has come in. I like to anchor a VWAP from that point, right? So an all-time high break, that's a pretty important contextual level. As long as we continue to make all-time high breaks, it's going to seem kind of trivial, but either way, they are important, right? Anytime you have an all-time high break, you get people trying to buy the breakout and you get a lot of crowding. So one thing that I want to do moving forward is always, or rather I do, but I think it's a good idea for you to do moving forward. I don't think this falls under advice, right? This is a good tool to use, is to anchor a VWAP, right? So from the break here, I have a VWAP anchored. So what this is showing me is after that break where most of the risk comes into the market, right? Where most of the risk has been isolated. As long as you're holding above that, that's good. When you start trading below it, what that indicates is that traders are getting caught off sides, right? If you consider post-break, if most of the risk comes in at, let's say, 60K, as long as we're above 60K, longs are still in good position, right? On average, most of the longs, okay? If you start trading below that value, the longs that came in late, all of these longs, if we start trading below the VWAP from that level, it tells us that those traders are likely being put in a position of pain, right? So after a break of an all-time high, after a break of a significant level, if you've been stuck within a range, okay? If we just consider that this is a range, right? If we're talking about the higher time frame range, you could use this from any significant change in structure. Once you have that break, you're going to get a lot of people that are going to get crowded in a position. They're going to cause a lot of trouble if we start trading below where their pain point is, where their pressure point is. So this is one thing that was kind of in, I went over this in BlockRoots yesterday. I said, all right, if we start falling below here, then we're probably going to come down and get this retest anyway. All right, so that's something to use moving forward. Anchor a VWAP from significant levels, right? When we've broken market structure, where we've seen a change in market structure, it'll allow you to follow where most of the risk has been put on. All right, and if you're long, you don't want to see that level gets lost, right? All right, so let's look at some of the charts you guys want to see. Swift Academy, which chart did you want me to look at? And someone said double distribution. No, not double distribution. Someone said a poor low at 52, right? So poor low at 52. Just make this a little different. Where are we talking back? About where are we talking? What are we talking about? Excuse me. Reset this first. Right here. Just give me some feedback. Let me see. My favorite gem is Shroom. I've been pretty adamant about it, and I'm really transparent with it. I have a lot of Shroom. Josh just bought a lot more Shroom. So BitBoy Crypto is Ape. No, I don't know if BitBoy even trades. All right. Let me just go through the chat again with you guys watching so that you can see that I'm not just sitting off on the side doing nothing. So Robert, it's called Epic Pen, but for some reason when I'm in Exo's desktop, it turns off. Oddly enough. Okay. 31 days. Oh, good stuff. All right, let me try that, Michael. Thanks for filling me in. So let's see. I'm gonna try, let's say, random 20 days. That's not working. TPO settings. Maybe this? No. That's not gonna be it. No. Chart settings. That's not it. Let me try this again. Look back period. 21 days. Maybe that'll reset it with everything else because Oh my God, amazing. You're a lifesaver. Oh, this is such a nice platform. I don't work with Exo whatsoever. I love Trip. I love Varen. I think they're awesome. Varen's, you know, from way back when Exo first started, was kind enough to give me access and give a bunch of people that are friends of mine access as well before they even started. And I've always been really grateful for that. And I will shill the shit out of Exo at no cost because it's fucking awesome. But the problem is I like things like Sierra. I knew they were ultimately going to be doing this, but I need something for my personal trading that offers execution and has no lag. And recently Exo's been lagging, and you know, I find an all-one platform and I go with it because I just have to. Like, I can't stick with something because it offers great charting, but now that they're going to be offering execution, it's a no-brainer. I think it'll be a no-brainer. I don't think they're going to let down. Quant Tower is great, right? But if it was Quant Tower, Exo, and they're the same, I would just go with Exo. Right? Even if I meant that I'd have to familiarize myself with a new platform all over again. Okay. Let's see. Just gonna see if anyone asked for anything specific. Hater charts. Hater chart. I can't tell, Swift. I don't know if you're being facetious or not. There's no hater chart. Hater charts or Hathor with an H, because I think there's a Hathor. Okay, I'll take a look at Shroom again, of course. It's a TPO chart. What's up, No Coiner? What's up, pal? What's up, stranger? Always busy, man. Always busy painting something, making it look awesome. Okay. Balancer. Yeah, I'll take a look at Balancer. Silky smooth, Michael. That's an understatement. That's really what I need. Like, you have to understand that it's been really frustrating to trade crypto. Okay, I'll definitely look at that, Swift. It's been frustrating to trade crypto because all this stuff is available in traditional markets, right? So I used trading technologies back in the day. I use Sierra. And there's never any issues, right? You have a ton of different brokerage accounts that you could attach to. There's never any issue at all, right? If you're trading futures, centralized anyway. Crypto, it's crazy fragmented in terms of exchanges and what connections are offered. You know, you have one platform, you know, for example, it's like you have one platform that has all the features you're looking for, but then it doesn't connect to the exchange you want to trade on. Then you have a platform that has all the exchanges you want to trade on, but it doesn't offer the features that you want to use. So what I've been doing, which is really frustrating, is I'm going to take a look at the hater chart as I'm talking, is I've been on, you know, one platform to trade on the exchange, and then had the chart on another to look at the TPO, and then I was using Sierra, and they don't offer connections to all the exchanges I'm trading on now. It's been a fucking pain in the ass, right? So This so Quant Tower offers everything I need besides a CVD, which is a pain in the butt, but it is what it is. I don't really need to. I could do fine with going onto a platform, a web-based platform, to use CVD for the times that I am. But now that you have, so you know, when you have something, what does this say? I'll go to spot. Now when you have something like this where it's super smooth and they're going to offer everything, it's like, it's the holy grail, right? All right, hater. I don't think so, Swift, man. I think that you're pulling my chain, man. Pretty new coin. HTR. All right, let's see. Oh, yeah. Okay, so I think it's Hathor. All right, so let me see if I could go back to trading view. I honestly thought for a second, man, that you were like still busting my chops. Yeah, Hathor. All right, cool. That's a nice looking chart. Let me add that real quick to the watch list just so I can look at this and the BTC chart. All right. Okay, so Hathor versus BTC. This is a, why didn't I not know about this? What is this? See, I'm fine with seeing something that is going up against USDT, and then I look at the BTC chart and it looks like crap, and I'm like, all right, whatever, I didn't really miss something. But this is all right, so it's mid, it's kind of, it's not really that low of market cap anymore. I was thinking like double digits. Circulating supply, so it has a pretty high diluted market cap when you consider the circulating supply is, you know, the available supply compared to the total supply right now. That ratio is what, like 1 to 4. So anyway, this versus BTC, really nice chart though. No changes in structure on the daily yet, just a bunch of higher lows. So this is the first thing I want to see before I even look at the USDT chart. So this is clearly outperforming BTC. Next level of support against BTC, back down here at this previous high right around 2808. And that's just a loose level, right? So right around this previous cluster high. So as long as this doesn't start falling below market structure around 2500, in terms of 2500 sats, this structure is, you know, clearly showing strength against Bitcoin. The USD chart, same story, man. This is a really strong moving pair. Surprised I didn't hear about this at all. So many things right now that are, it's frustrating, you know, you can't catch them all. So significant range that we were within, right, for this is going on. It's going back into February. Sort of a, I was going to say a clean retest, but it wasn't. It's a bullish pullback because it doesn't even come all the way back to the level. And now we have 1, 2, 3 highs. Some more recent daily level is around 150. I mean, as long as 150 holds, this is, you know, I don't want to say 1, 2, 3, and now maybe this is a third, and we're putting in a 3-drive structure, and maybe now we're going to move sideways a bit. I don't want to get into that kind of thinking, but in terms of market structure, I don't know if, you know, if we're just going off of highs, I don't know if this is going to do its job up here, right? So this 166 level. We're already pulling back to this level, and it could just be, you know, timing with how Bitcoin pulled back. So I would say as long as 150 holds, if we go between here and start forming a range, this looks like a strong structure still, right? But I don't know if I would want to long this because it's, you know, this could be a deviation within what becomes a longer range. I think the most important level to hold on this chart, you don't have a lot of levels, you got to look at the 4-hour chart, is this 130 level. So high, low, high, low, high, and then holding above that 130 keeps us intact. So with an alt, after it's put up a move like this, put points on the board like that, you might be looking at a range to form within 130 to 179 now. but structure looks good. I mean, the truth is, you know, higher time frame structure, if we're just going off of that, you know, as long as $1 holds, then this is intact. But you don't want to see alts start doing retests like that, right? You want to see that the dips are really shallow. So even if looking at a fib from this level, you know, you don't want to see that you start pulling back more than 50%. You know, the 618 is actually right around that low down here. So that's actually really good. So between the level and that confluence from the fib, I think your 130 level is your line in the sand. So we could very well begin ranging between here. I'm not like trying to call it too early because this could very well just continue up from here. But I think in terms of risk reward, it doesn't look like a good long right here. I think a better long would probably be back around that 138, 150 level. And then as long as this 130 level holds, a higher time frame structure is still good. But there's a couple levels within here you could look for a response off of. I guess that's my point. So yeah, that looks good. Okay, so GRT and yeah, look at Ray for sure. Okay, I think that so we'll go to Ray because I'm pretty heavy in Ray. I'm bullish on Ray for sure, and some of it is because of it being associated with SAM, right? FTX. In terms of levels, let me get the current price level off the chart. So not a lot of history, so you got to look at this on the 4-hour, I'd say. So this is the retest I was ultimately that I would be looking for to continue. Let me zoom in a little bit more. One sec. Let me get the box off because that's not what I'm trying to say. This retest right here was ultimately what I would have wanted to see to continue upward. So far this rejection, not the most bullish looking rejection. I'm fully prepared for this to get reaccepted. I mean, if you look at this range back here and this range that we had sort of within here, I'm expecting that if this is going to pull back any further below this low, it might just come back down below 10 again. Reclaiming now locally, reclaiming this $11 level is pretty significant. So if we could reclaim that, then maybe this was that deviation below, right after this retest. I'm not 100%, you know, I'm bullish on Ray because I'm bullish on FTX and bullish on FTT and all SAM related coins. But I got to say this pullback, I'm not getting this to scale appropriately. This pullback right now is not the kind of pullback I would want to see. But remember, this was influenced by BTC, right? So if we see BTC recover, then I'm pretty confident that this is going to hold up here. As long as this holds up here, it's a retest. But you know, you don't want to see, and we're just being honest, like you don't want to see that you get multiple retests. Right? Best case scenario would have been this pullback right here, and this to keep trading higher above 11. But these are the cards we're dealt, right? It had more of a pullback because of Bitcoin. So please, bro. Hey, I hate when people call me bro. A&M, Azul, bro. Please, cheese coin. Please, bro. Please. Can you look at cheese coin? Can you look at cheese coin? Coin. I'm reading what you said. I don't forget, man. I'll look at it in a second. Please, cheese coin, bro. Please. Yeah, one sec, man. I'll look at cheese coin. All right. Some other people had other coins they wanted to look at before you. So verdict with Rays, I'm still bullish on Ray. I'm bullish on Ray on the higher time frame. In terms of local structure, it is kind of just a retest of this previous high. I just don't want this to start. I'm cautious about. So put it this way: I'm cautious about this showing weakness because I still think it's following similarly to SRM's moves in the beginning, which is kind of where we're at right over here still. Let me open this up. So SRM in the beginning, and then Raydium right here. So put this on the 4-hour too. So my play is that these charts are going to be similar in that, you know, you have this downward structure, accumulation period, and then we're going to see a markup again and take out this high. So when we start failing early, I don't know, maybe I'm putting too much on the on previous moves within SOL and SRM, but I have to remind myself this occurred at a certain time within structure when Bitcoin was moving a certain way, and this is a completely different time. So they don't have to resolve the same way. It's not guaranteed. I think I was trading that based on that fractal to some degree. So then maybe Raydium has a lot longer of an accumulation period to put in. Right? It's just one thing I'm thinking of, because SRM also had the whole issue that you just mentioned where only a certain amount of supply is available, and there's a much larger total diluted market cap compared to what is currently right now. So I'm just cautious of that occurring with Ray, where yeah, it moves up slightly but then continues to put in a much longer sideways period. I think overall we see Ray over 20 either way. I think it's going over 50, honestly. So I'll go over cheese. Jesus Christ, A&M. Do you have a gun to your head about cheese right now? And like you need the cheese bag to go up? All right. I mean, cheese had a huge pump. This is like unchartable back here. This is your next area support. Good luck. No, I'm just kidding. I mean, this is against BTC. So, yeah, it's obvious. Strength against BTC. That's good. I'm more interested in the USD chart right now. So knowing that it's strong against BTC, I think that, like I've said many times before, if you're trading the USD pair, keep in mind where the BTC resistances are. So if we're in a trade and we're long cheese, I'm looking at the BTC chart and where we are in relation to that resistance rather than maybe the USD resistance as much. But let me look at this versus USD. Okay. So I mean, this is a straight up vertical chart, man. Would I want to buy this? I mean, can you say that this looks very similar to this and that this is just a very tight flag? Yeah, for sure. But I think that that's contingent now upon this 59-cent level holding, right? I mean, this is your daily structure that you have, right? Daily lowest close so far within here, 60 cents. Daily resistance, highest close, 72. Complete gap. Big gap going all the way down to 26. So that is a gap of... Why is the fucking thing not working? It's a 50% gap down to the next area of market structure. All right, so just keep that in mind. You got that huge ass... I mean, there's some structure, but I don't think in this kind of move it would really serve much of a purpose besides an short-term bounce. So holding this is pretty important. I would say if you did something like this, if we took out this low, and then we're trading above something like 67, then maybe, yeah, this is your next continuation move, right? So something like this. That's the benefit of having a really tight flag. This becomes kind of your trigger. So the low is where it's no, the high is where it's a yes. But in here, I don't know if I'd want to. You could definitely get in a position over here and say that this is an attractive position from a risk reward standpoint because, if you're saying that your stop is based on this low holding, and your target is the high again, right? You have a 5-to-1 off of just saying arbitrarily that low is the most significant low for this structure. Though, like I said, could wick into that. I would rather see, if I came to this chart tomorrow and I saw it did this, then I'd be more bullish than I am with it just sitting right here. Put it that way. Of course, the guy who's yelling about in the chat about checking out a chart picks the one that is like how high up right now? Just from the beginning of March, up 10x. Good luck. So one thing to note this morning is you got it, man. A lot of alts held as Bitcoin dropped, right? So that is something to always pay attention to. Strength of the alt market after Bitcoin drops. So what I'll do, for example, let's go into DeFi really quick. So from the drop this morning, let's go to Bitcoin. Respect the pump, just buy. Yeah. What time was that drop? Where is Bitcoin? One sec. Let me just change the chart real quick. Just going to mark these evenly. Okay, so to the depths of the drop, that's what I want to do. To the depths. All right, so right there. I mean, it's easy enough to eyeball. I don't know why I just went through all that. Just want to put a line right on that. All right. Get this to the front. Bear with me. Okay. All right. So what I'm looking at right now is just I want to see what's performing well post, after recovering, right? So drops all the way down here. That's a low of BTC. And we're looking at Curve, ZIL, Solana, SNX, MTA outperforming out of the bounce. What's kind of just holding up equally? SRM, Sushi, right? DOT, slightly underperforming. Let's put Ray is slightly overperforming. Okay, so if we see, a lot of times we see that when Bitcoin drops, everything takes a much larger haircut. The case with this morning is that that's not the case, right? Things held up pretty well. I have the sessions. So this is the London and New York sessions. So about sessions really quick. If you see that London is starting off strong, so unfortunately I'm asleep. London starts off strong and going into the gap. So when there's a London-New York overlap, the trend is maintaining the London trend. I would say that you typically don't want to fade that trend into the New York close. And go check out how that has historically stood up. When there's conviction in both of those sessions, it tends to persist. Does anyone have any other questions? I'll go through the questions and some more charts. Yeah, 3 a.m. Yeah, Bobby, I know where you are, and not to dox you, but same time as me. Okay. SNX, yeah, I'll take a look at SNX for sure. I'll look at ETH, SNX, COTI. Let me just add these to the watch list so it's easier. Then I gotta clean this list up because it's got a ton of stuff on it that I don't even want. So against BTC, just today, as of the last 3 days, breaking out of this little range. So highest daily close of the last 4 days is around, against BTC, is around 644. So showing strength right here, all right, against Bitcoin, against the dollar. This is kind of the same chart as cheese, right? Not the same, but my point is you have this flagging pattern taking place. It's a bull market, right? You want to say that flags are good opportunities to add to positions. And they're good to define positions as well because, I mean, technically this is the next area of structure down here below 24. I mean, around 28, but holding 33 looks attractive. I don't know anything about this pair though. No structure at all established on the weekly, meaning there's no pullback, major pullback yet. But sometimes, you know, in a bull market, you're gonna have a lot of altcoins that just never do that until the final one comes, and it's the change in the trend. So that's why they make log charts, because a lot of times you can't see the really strong assets. You can't see, you won't see any corrections early on unless you put on a log chart. So this looks good. I mean, it's doing the same thing as cheese. It's flagging on the higher time frame on the daily. You have, if I was going to apply the same reasoning I do towards BTC, this is your last 4-day range right here, right? It's almost like this is an SR flip. This little line right here, little line. This midpoint around 39 is what looks like the split. It's easier if I just put this on. Point of control right here. And if you were to look at just this structure, the last 4 days, value area high, point of control of the entire structure, right around 39. If you flip that level, you're probably just attacking these highs again. So you have a trade from there. Kind of don't like to talk about Bitcoin the same, alts the same way I talk about BTC, because these levels are so, it moves so quickly that you don't get, like, you know, if I say like, all right, so this 39 level is the level, and if we break above here and retest, then yeah, I'll look for a trade up to the highs around 46. Sometimes the level breaking means just doing that vertically, one big move, right? So if I'm just looking at this and analyzing it from a trending standpoint, rather than getting into the day-to-day, intraday minutia, this could be your range that's forming, that's a flag before continuation, right? Still above the 20-period moving average. Any kind of pullbacks back to there would be good opportunities during a trend. So we look at ETH, something I'm familiar with. All right, so ETH really quick. What a pullback, right? Came all the way back to the previous high. Looked like shit. ETH sort of the same situation as BTC, right? Where you had a range, expansion, ton of crowding, big dump. But in this case, ETH stopped at the high. So spending its time again back within a previous area that it was accepted between 1730 and around 1864. I would say that with ETH, that as long as we maintain that 1760, 1730 level, these lows, this could just be, it just could be a bunch of noisiness in a larger pullback that with ETH leads to continuation. I don't want to say that this is any different from BTC right now, other than it's been kind of weak against Bitcoin. Kind of weak. I mean, for the last couple of weeks, it's been struggling. But I think that at least gives us a clear range. So the high of 33,867 against BTC, being the highest close we were able to put in on a weekly closing basis, spending most of our days below there, deviation. Now if we're back above that level, I think that clearly this becomes a much more obvious bottom against Bitcoin. Again, if we zoom out though, this looks good still. On the daily, right? Your most important level now is this low right around 14. So the low down there is probably the most important level on the chart, right? So as long as that's maintained, you know, as I said like a couple weeks ago, you know, this is a really big move. With Bitcoin, you know, this is a really big move. Who's to say that we do not go do something like we did down here, or we did down here. We moved sideways for a really long time, and everyone always expects like continuation is around the corner. So as long as these lows hold, everything is good, right? This could, yeah, it could, 6 months from now we could be talking about something that ended up doing this and then broke down, right? But as long as the lows hold, I'm going to be looking to buy significant support levels within the structure. And for ETH, while I don't trade it as much, locally, as long as the 1730 level holds, it looks like you have really just a flip of this 1690 level, pulled back to it once. This helped by Bitcoin, obviously, but as long as that level holds, it's not broken until it's broken, right? Okay. So I'm long AAVE. So look at AAVE. Yeah, totally. Yeah, Dem, that's been sort of the case now for the last couple of months. With look at pairs like Sushi, look at pairs like SRM, Sol, Dot, like they have been really fast out of the gate after any kind of correction, ridiculously. So no, they're not on the right timelines right now. My settings are set to. This is UTC, and this is UTC settings right here. If I change around a template, or I don't know what I change once in a while, it'll change everything around on my trading view. All right, what else are we going to look at? AAVE. Look at AAVE real quick. I think that AAVE is going to go on to perform really well. As long as 350 level holds for AAVE, I'm not really concerned. So more like, this pocket between 350 and right around 3. As long as this low holds, we could very well just go on to range, and I'll probably just add on this low if we come down and test it again. I wouldn't want that to happen to be the case, right? Where you have a lower high and then you're coming back down to test this low. Could see it as a possibility, right? Where you do take that low out and then, yeah, that is your trap set up down there. But it's just ranging, right? It had a really, this was a really strong move up, right? I didn't mean to do that. So from the beginning of 2021, AAVE, SNX, all were incredibly strong. So they could be going through a longer period of accumulation again, right? So I don't want to overthink these. You have local ranges you could trade within. This SR flip. All right. But with these, I want to hold these. I don't trade the alts really. I traded Ray a couple times, but I'm just holding things now that I'm getting in a position. Other than BTC, which I trade all the time, obviously. So AAVE looks good. It honestly just looks like another accumulation period setting up. I mean, if you're uncertain of AAVE, I think that you could just go off of local structure, right? So low, so a change in this high, so us breaking back above 460, I think sets up another move back up to that 530 level. The weekly level's not invalidated, right? Just based on a lower time frame movement though, so. But I think we're setting up, I think that setup is still there. So, excuse me, this is the weekly high right around, weekly high is closed right around 474. But I do think that you could see a move under a weekly close, or rather under that time frame that goes above this 450 level and retargets these daily highs. I think that you could probably take that signal early too. I should probably rephrase that. If I was going to be looking to add, and I was asked where I would add for this, if it wasn't a reclaim of the low after grabbing it, I would say that it would be after a break above this high, a retest of that high. It's a nice amount of confluence up there. And I think it just becomes a much more obvious structure at that point. And against BTC, it's kind of in a pretty decent spot. You're looking at it really just a larger pullback into a previous higher time frame high in market structure. So this whole area is a good spot to find support against Bitcoin. Okay. I tried that indicator and it was crappy. Which one are you talking about? Oh, I know excuse me. I know what you're talking about. I don't, as most of you know, I haven't had this indicator on my chart. I just put this on recently. There's different ones that are, some of them are not accurate. I was just using this to see the overlap, and it was the fastest one that gave me a decent look at the overlap. But there's a ton of different ones. I haven't gone through enough yet. Most of you guys are probably familiar with all the things that I've had on my chart forever now and what I haven't. I think we're obviously all aware of what time the sessions start and end. So yeah, this has the New York session as already closing. This would be like the afternoon, right? So this might be calculating it based on certain zones within the sessions. Either way. I didn't know responder. I thought you were talking about my time sessions before. ADA, yeah, look at ADA. All black candles. The training wheels are off. Range and go. Shroom, yeah, look at Shroom for sure. All right, for those of you that are departing, thanks for stopping in, guys. I'm going to do the next stream on Wednesday. So real quick, yeah, I'm very bullish on Shroom. I added to my Shroom position. Josh added a lot to his Shroom position. Shroom right now, I mean, it is the most subtle, quiet pair that I know of. I just still, no one's, not besides me and Josh, not a lot. I know a lot of big people that are in it, but they haven't said anything yet. So they're probably still getting in. Really nice initial retest. Came back though, unfortunately, but still, this is a really strong move off of this previous high. And I mean, we've had a pullback after breaking one, but my thing is, like, if $1 doesn't cause a huge dump, because a lot of people think, oh, you know, it's all the way up to $1, that's going to be a good level to take profit. If $1 didn't cause a huge reaction, then we're not going to see a reaction soon. So a lot of people were thinking, and they're thinking about myself too. Oh, what's up, Josh? They were saying like, oh, you know, Ryan or Clark, you know, Ryan's my name. They're, you know, Josh, they're going to take profit at $1. So I think the proof is in the pudding that we broke above $1. We haven't had a massive rejection at all. So that is a really important psychological level. So if you don't see profit taking at that whole very obvious number, big fat round number like that, then I think that clearly this has a lot higher to go. And what I think about $1 is, and I've said there's the 80 to 120 rule. This is something Jim Cramer talked about. If he was talking about Caterpillar stock, you know, something breaks 80, don't sell it till it hits 100. Something hits 100 and it doesn't get sold off, don't sell until it hits 120. So with $1, around $1, right, the closer that we are to $1 and we're holding, it's a really important psychological number because what it allows for is really quick mental math. So if I'm like thinking, if let's say I'm like, you know, I want to buy a bag of something, and I'm looking at something that's $1.20, I'm looking at something that is 80 cents, I'm looking at something that's $1. I know that the 80 cents one I could get more of, right? The fastest mental math though is for the one that is $1, right? I can immediately think in terms of units that I'm getting. So for people that are getting their stimulus check, they could think, oh, I could buy 1,400 shroom right now, right? It's really, it's lazy thinking, right? It's not lazy thinking. It's convenient, the fact that it is that value, but it does have an effect. I think that when you hold a dollar, you're going to see that when it holds a dollar and it holds here for a little while, it's going to move much further up. And the fact that we didn't see this level cause a major dump. So, yeah. And I'll look at GSwap because I haven't looked at that enough. Same thing though. I think that these are gonna be a pairs trade essentially. Yeah, look at this. I mean, it's sort of the same, more recent structure. Can't say anything about this, meaning I can't say anything. I'm not allowed to say anything, but there's a reason why I didn't sell and I've added. So it's not financial advice, but I'm as transparent as possible. I mean, for something that's a micro cap like this to hold levels cleanly, that just means people are stepping in because they think the levels are significant. So this, similar to Shroom, nice pullback right now. I don't think it's going anywhere but up. I think the market that Shroom and GameSwap are addressing. I'm so used to thinking of all the GME drama and GameSpot and GameStop, and the market that they're addressing is huge, potentially huge. So, yeah, you could say that this is more of a fundamental play, and the technicals look great, so that's always a plus. But I think I'm going to wrap I was about to say wrap the shroom up, wrap the stream up, guys. We are about an hour and 42 minutes into it. Yeah, I'm not worried about this pullback, honestly. From the looks of it so far, like I said, yeah, market got a little heavy up here. All right. I showed you the anchored VWAP, how we started trading back below that. Derivatives on the weekend, right? A lot of crowding, a lot of overheating. And yeah, we came and we reaccepted back within a prior range and we held it. So we're holding it right now, painting this sort of B-like profile. A lot of selling into this low. Just trying to give you some bullet points. A lot of selling into the low. Funding has gone neutral. It is currently neutral. It is predicted as neutral. Spot is trading, or has traded, largely at a premium to futures for majority of this structure. All right. If we look at just the delta alone at this low, mostly sellers, right? Obviously, some of those being the stops that are hit, because that is your market sell as well. A large amount of liquidations, a massive amount of liquidations. So we'll look at the 24-hour liquidations. So 24 hours, right? Over $1 billion in Bitcoin alone in the last 24 hours. This is, yeah, that's huge. That's over $1 billion. 1.7 billion, 77 billion in the last 24 hours. So what that means is, again, there's less pressure now to the upside. You stop out a bunch of longs, you remove future sellers. Okay, so when the market now reverses and moves back up, there's less in front of it. And you get more people that are going to be chasing back in who sold. So everything looks good. Okay, everything looks good. Yeah, that covers it. On behalf of myself, my partner Josh Rager, BlockRoots, and our partners at Phemex, I want to thank you guys for tuning in. As XO starts to add more to this platform, I'll feature it more during the streams. I know it's not public yet. It's in beta. It might be public. I don't know. They just sent me a code. But until next time, guys, stay smart. I'm still confident right now. I think that this is a good-looking pullback. But if, let's say that worst comes to worst. Worst comes to worst. Let's say that this breaks below this low and we don't reclaim the low and put in that 3-drive structure I was talking about. If we start trading back below these lows, right, reaccepting below these lows right over here, then, I mean, ultimately, the next area of support, it's not too far away. You have a good amount of confluence below, right around this 52 level. Okay, so maybe the market comes back down there. There's no reason. My point is, there's no reason to be bearish on Bitcoin for a while. That's just the way it is. I mean, it's been so strong. We're that far away from the most significant low, that you have to change a lot with this structure to really change it. Okay. All right, guys, everyone have a fantastic evening. It's been a pleasure. Thanks for stopping in.